Okay, so we're talking about fractions, and in this video, we're going to talk specifically about factors. And the reason we need to talk about factors is because factors always show up when you're doing fraction problems. So it's really good for you if you want to get good at fractions. It's good for you, first of all, to understand what factors are. Now, here's what a factor is. It's just a fancy word for two or more numbers multiplied together. So, for example, 2 times 4 makes what? It makes 8. Well, 2 and 4 are the factors of 8. So what would be really helpful for you to do is just start taking numbers like, for example, 16, and think about how you can break down 16. Well, 16 is 2 times 8, right? Those are the factors of 16. But you can break that down even more, can't you? Because you can break the 8 down into, so 2 times, and then the 8 is what? Is another 2 times 4, right? So there's another factoring of 16. 2 times 2 times 4. If you multiply all those together, you'll get 16. But we can break 4 down even more, can't we? So this is the same thing as 2 times 2 times, and then 4 is 2 times 2. Now notice how I'm keeping it organized and keeping all of my things lined up. Get used to working on math like that, because if you stay organized, it'll be easier and easier for you to do math. Now let's do one more factoring. So let's take the number 15 now, okay? So 15, how do you break that into factors? Well, 15 is 3 times 5, isn't it? And that's really as far as you can break it down. You can't break it down any more than that. Now, you can do that with all kinds of different numbers like 9, and 9 breaks down into 3 times 3. And maybe that seems boring to you, but it's really important for you to get good at factoring numbers, because you're going to see factors show up all over the place in fractions. So here's an example. Let's say you're multiplying 3/5 times 5/4. Well, here's a great little shortcut. Here's the rule. As long as you're multiplying, it's important you have to make sure that you're multiplying. If you're multiplying 2 or more fractions together, here's a great little shortcut rule. You can cancel any factors that are the same on the top and bottom. So here's what I mean. You can take that 5, and that 5 right there cancels with that 5 right there. And 5, that makes a 1. You're actually left with 5 times 1, right? It's not a 0, it's a 1, because it's 5 times 1, right? And so now, if you remember the rule, to multiply fractions, you just multiply the tops across. So 3 times, and now we don't have a 5 there anymore, we have a 1, so that's just 3. And over here, we have, instead of a 5, we have a 1. 1 times 4 makes 4, and that gives you 3/4. Wasn't that easy? It was easy because we had the same factor on bottom as we had on top. That was too easy. Let's do another one. So here's one that's a little more complicated. We have 4 divided by 15 times. Now notice, we have a times, so we can use our little shortcut. 4 over 15 times 5 over 8. Now, here's the thing. In the first example, we had real easy factors that were already the same, right? 5 and 5. In this case, we don't. So here's the trick. What you want to do is, instead of thinking of this as 15, let's think of this as what? Let's think of it as 3 times 5, right? And instead of thinking of this as 8, let's think of it as 2 times 4. And now watch what we can do. So now we've got this 5 on the bottom cancels with this 5 on the top, and this 4 on the bottom cancels with this 4 on the top, and what are we left with? Remember, these are 1s up here, so 1 times 4 right here, and 5 times 1 here, so we have 1 times 1, which is 1, and on bottom we have 3. The 5's gone, the 4's gone, so we have 3 times 2, which makes 6. And our answer is 1 over 6. That was pretty easy. Look at how complicated those numbers looked at first when we started. But if we know how to factor stuff, then it makes it a lot simpler, and we can do shortcuts with multiplication. Okay, let's do one more. So in this case, we have 6 over 25 times, and that's really important that it says times there. If it said plus there, we couldn't do this. So we'll get to that in the next video. But we have 6 over 25 times 15 over 9. Now that means we can do our little shortcut. So let's go to work. 25 is what? 5 times. I'm going to use a little dot instead of an X. It's the same thing. So 5 times 5. And 15 is what? 3 times 5. 3 times 5. And 9 is 3 times 3. And 6 is 2 times 3, right? So look at this. If we look at all of the red numbers now what we can do is we can just have some fun and just start killing out the same factors. Now, remember, we've got 2 5s down here, but only 1 up here, so we can only cancel. Let me change the color here. We can only cancel 1 5 with 1 5, right? And then this 3 right here, this one can cancel with that one. And this one here can cancel with this one here. And look, we're done. And what are we left with? We're left with a 2 on top and a 5 on bottom, and that's it. So our answer is 2/5. Now that was fun, wasn't it? That was pretty easy, wasn't it? As long as we knew how to factor first, it was a lot easier to do that problem. When you're multiplying fractions, you always want to break down the factors first and cancel all the factors because it'll really make the problem easy for you. Think about how much harder that would have been if we had to multiply 6 times 15. Well, now you got to go like this. 15 times 6, and you got to do all this work here. That's no fun, right? And 25 times 9, right? Well, gosh, that's 25 times 9, and you got to do all this work. That's no fun. You see how much easier it was when you knew how to use factors? Now, in the next video, we'll show you how to use factors when you're adding fractions together.